Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto returned as a villain Shinju god? Naruto times Kagaya times Hinata times Sakura times Ino times Tsunade times Mei times Konan times Karen times Tamari times Tenten times Yugito times Samui times Mabui, Judgment of the Shinobi World, Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. In the trees. A figure in the trees nearby watched as the embassy delusional man ranted about his so-called claim to glory being stripped from him. His right eye being the only visible one had 3 tomo in it that were spinning slowly. God, he's such a sore loser and the tales he sprout are nothing more but words from a buffoon. The figure said. His eye went to the 3 kunoichi. They look like bitches. Depending on how they act will decide whether I entertain myself in this dimension or simply revive Tazuna, wipe their minds of me, and head back home. And now Kyuubi, your chakra is mine. Ao shouted from below. TCH, can't never wait can you? With that, the figure jumped down from his hiding spot. You know, that'd be a good story if half of it was true and not out the mouth and egotistical, power-hungry moron like yourself. Everyone looked at the new arrival as he stood up, standing at a height of 6 feet 3. He wore a black cloak that was being blown by the heavy wind, dark spiky red hair that completely covered the left side of his face, like how he had 2 horns sprouting from either side of his forehead though were surrounded by the spiky hair giving him a feral look, dark fingerless gloves, a gray, long-sleeved, collared shirt, black pants, black shinobi boots, and a black belt which held a brown shuriken holster. His right eye still having the 3 tomo though they weren't spinning, yet. Little did they know, the figure was also examining them starting with the 3 females. Uzumaki Kushina was wearing a torn red shirt that showed her impressive cleavage that clearly couldn't be held into a bra, brown fingerless gloves, gray shinobi pants that had their own slash marks, and shinobi sandals, her left arm appearing to be holding a wounded spot in her stomach. Her headband did nothing to stop her hair from covering her face due to the rain. Mitarashi Anko was only wearing her fishnet shirt that revealed the areolas of her round huge since her trench coat had been cut to bits, gray pants with sandals, her spiky purple hair usually in a ponytail but from the rain and fighting, it was down. Her Konoha headband acting as a belt. She was also heavily drenched from the rain. And finally, Uzumaki Naomi. The girl was wearing the remaining shreds of a black hoodie, a white tank top underneath that had been thoroughly drenched by the rain showing her easily, her headband wrapped around her neck, black pants with orange flames on the side, from what it looked, drenched bandage wrappings on her arms, and shinobi sandals. Her red hair, like her mother's, had been drenched by the rain and was currently covering half her face. His eyes then turned to the males. They all ranged from 5 feet 9 to 5 feet 10 with different colored hairstyles. Naruto. Ao growled in anger, how did you catch up with us? The redhead chuckled, you didn't exactly believe that breaking out of prison, taking inmates with you, and crossing into a domain that does not belong to you wouldn't go unnoticed, did you? Ao snorted before he smirked. You won't have such an easy time defeating me as you did before after I obtained the 9 tails chakra. You 10, drop the axe and handle him. He roared. Yes Ao-sama. They shouted before dropping their henges. The fake appearances dropped to show 10 new men standing there, all of them having new features. Fallen gods. Naruto snarled. Fallen gods were simply gods who had been cast out of heaven and unaccepted by hell due to how sick they were. Therefore, as punishment they were stripped of their powers and sent to a prison of sorts that had the power and force to restrain them. Until now, that is. Long time no see Naruto. A gray-haired man stepped forward, his face scarred beyond even unearthly repair. How could anyone forget seeing a face like yours, Ryo? He taunted, causing the man to growl. A face you caused me. He snapped. Naruto simply shrugged. Not my fault you thought I was a pushover and found out the hard way. Enough talking, let's just kill him already. A orange-haired man shouted. Ryo shrugged before smirking. Fine by me, I would say it was nice knowing you, Naruto, but that would be telling a lie. Naruto simply undid his cloak, letting it flow with the wind. His three-tomo Sharingan forming into its eternal Mangekyo stage as he took a taijutsu stance. Who will be the first to fall before a god? He asked the men as they charged. Dodging reckless punch after punch, he retaliated with an uppercut, sending one flying and dodging a kick aimed at his back. He jumped back, avoiding a fireball that hit the ground, sending debris everywhere before seeing four more approaching. Sweden. Sujinheki. Flashing through hand seals, he raised a wall of water that blocked all four but sending steam everywhere that blinded his Sharingan. Can't use that special eye now, can you? He heard Ryo call out. I didn't need it to beat you losers before and I don't need it now. Naruto mocked, earning growls from all around him. Just die already, a voice yelled from behind. He turned around and caught a fist aiming for his face before gripping the hand tightly, breaking the bones within it. Ah! The man gave a pain-filled scream that froze everyone in the vicinity before he gave a disgusting squelch from his throat and a thud was heard. A pulse of chakra was felt through their bodies as the steam cleared, showing a completely new Naruto. This Naruto wore a Anbu mask of sorts, though it was completely black with only red markings for slits around the eye holes, his eyes showing the M's, and the once long-sleeved shirt he wore gone. Showtime, he said as he took off at a blinding speed towards his first victim, who paled. Ao also paled considerably, remembering just how dangerous Naruto was when that mask came out. He was like a bloodthirsty animal that stopped at nothing to acquire what he wanted, and if you just happened to be in his way, you lost your life. He was referred to as Yami Naruto. Forget it, I'll just kill the women and take the Nine Tails chakra when I'm conveniently hidden away from him. He said, clear fear in his voice. Oh, you are, a voice said behind him. The Otsutsuki's eyes widened as he turned around, only to get hit in the face, sending him into some trees and nearby into a forest. Naruto turned to four of his clones and nodded before he took off after Ao. Oi, what are you guys doing? Anko said, wincing as she was lifted up bridal style. Taking you somewhere safe. Where else? A clone answered. We don't need your help, we're capable of helping ourselves. Kushina snapped as she ripped herself from the clone assisting her, trying to walk only to grunt in pain and almost fall over before the same clone she brushed off to hold her up. In the current situation you're in, you can't even walk, let alone fight. Why are you helping us? You could just kill us and move on with something else. Especially if you're a god like he claimed. I could, but you three interest me. Just what exactly do you mean by that? Naomi asked before wincing as she tried to sit up. Another clone that was carrying Tezuna's corpse answered, I can sense negative emotions and all three of you possess many. Though what they're directed at and why I don't know. Kushina scowled, just tell us what you want already. The clone rolled his eyes, you can cut the tough act, Kushina-san. It has no effect on me whatsoever, so honestly just act normal. I am acting normal, she lied. Whatever you say. Yami Naruto glanced around at the dead fallen gods he had picked apart, their bodies torn between broken bones, slit throats, or mental breakdown by his Sharingan. All but one was accounted for. Clang. Summoning a katana in his hand and raising his behind him defensively, he had blocked a backstab meant to kill him by none other than Ryo. So we meet again, freak. Ryo taunted only to get no reply. Don't wanna talk? Fine, you'll just die in silence. The scarred man then charged, swiping madly at Yami Naruto, madly in a stray of unbalanced, sloppy, arrogant strikes. Being the skilled duelist he was, Yami Naruto simply whacked Ryo across the face with his hilt before thrusting his blade into the shorter male's thigh, causing him to scream in pain. You little shit. I'll make you beg me for mercy after that. Slashing madly, it was clear to anyone that Ryo didn't know how to wield a sword or simply was just too angered to use it properly. Yami Naruto simply dodged the strikes, angering the fallen god even more, who continued to slash wildly. Making eye contact with Ryo, his Sharingan spun, captivating Ryo, whose eyes went dull and then he fell back. Naruto's Tsukuyomi. Ryo awoke to see his comrades well and alive cheering him on. What happened? he asked, rubbing his eyes. You did it. You killed that pathetic bastard. One of them shouted. A grin came to Ryo's scarred face. Of course I did. And now I will assume rule over the world and everything will be mine. He shouted, expecting cheers. He got none. When he turned to look at them, he gasped in horror. His former alive fallen gods were now dead. Their eyes plucked out, organs spilled out hanging them, and their mouths carved into creepy demonic smiles. What the? Ryo shouted, falling on his, attempting to turn and run away only to come face first with his deceased son. Daddy, the boy said, moving towards the man. No, no, get back. Daddy, don't you remember me? No, no, get back. Daddy, don't you remember me? The boy's face began more disfigured, one side beginning to melt while the other turned scarred as he began to start crying in pain, holding his chest. You caused this. The child blamed Ryo, who was too horrified to do anything. The boy's body then turned to flames as he screamed, which would be somewhat adorable had his not be melting. He charged his former father, who was still frozen on the spot, thus catching him on fire as well. Only when he began to burn did he finally react. Get off me. No, I can't die yet, please stop. No. The genjutsu ended with Yami Naruto looking down at the remains of Ryo. His body had been burnt badly beyond recognition, his eyes bleeding profusely, and ooze coming out of mouth, nose, and ears. That was easier than I thought, he said before disappearing back into his original body. Devastation. That was the only real word to describe the battlefield. Torn ground, chunks on earth everywhere, destroyed trees, burning bushes, gaping holes in the ground. In the middle stood two men. One being Ao, though it wouldn't be your fault if you didn't recognize him. His kimono had been ripped, one of his pupilless eyes being swollen shut, the other one having a vein leading down indicating he had the Byakugan. His horns were broken, being lost somewhere in the woods, and multiple cut marks all over his body. The second was Naruto, him being more identifiable. His shirt had been destroyed, forcing him to go shirtless, his left horn broken in half, blood dripping from his right eye that was swollen shut, his left arm black and scarred from a beating from the trees and Juken strikes, and his left eye that once held a 9-tomoed Rinne Sharingan had returned to its basic Rinnegan form. It's over, Uzumaki. I've won, you've lost. And once I rip the power of the 10 tails from your body, I'll take over this timeline and everything else. I'll be the strongest there ever was. Ao shouted to the sky. Even at my weakest, you still can't kill me. How disappointing. Naruto mumbled. What did you say? Ao vehemently snapped. I'm currently not at my strongest at all, far from it actually. When the steam gave me a chance to cover myself, I created another body, you know him as Yami Naruto. My darker half. I gave him more than a generous amount of chakra to try out a new version of Tsukuyomi I had in mind for Ryo. This was how you saw him and I at the same time instead of one of us having control over just one body. Ao's smirk dropped and an infuriated look took place. He had been played. He wasn't even treated as an equal. He had looked down upon him, General Ao once again. No, he would kill this version of Naruto, then kill the Yami version. Yes. Then he would take those 3 females and any other female he desired for himself. The universe would fear him and him only. Ao, the conqueror. He almost missed a dark malevolent chakra shoot into the back of Naruto, who kneeled over in slight pain. Seeing his face, he smirked before rushing forward with chakra pushed into his feet, sending all the available chakra he had into his remaining hand for a killing Juken strike. He would rule all. Ao the conqueror, Ao the brave, he would be feared and respected by A. His throat was caught as he was brought face to Naruto, who had stood up. The chakra in both his feet and hand quite literally had disappeared. The evil chakra flowing off of Naruto scared the former Otsutsuki general immensely, but he wouldn't let this monster know that. Naruto opened his left eye as the wind kicked up, revealing the familiar 4-ringed, 9-tomoed purple Rinne Sharingan eye. His skin turning black as a star formed above his nose. Pathetic. I wasn't even paying attention and you still couldn't catch me off guard. And you want people to call you a god? Naruto taunted as he threw Ao into the ground, a crater immediately forming due to the force and size of the heavier man. Witness the true power of a god and how he wipes out worms like you who dare defy him. Chibaku Tensai. A black sphere formed between Naruto's hands before he threw it into the sky. The sphere began attracting pieces of the earth, trees, and even Ao and Naruto was pulled into the general direction of the black ball. The taller of the two began scrambling for other pieces of earth in an attempt to reach the ground once again before being pulled back by his hair by Naruto, who threw him up even higher before descending to the ground himself. Once the ball had been entirely formed and Ao had been trapped inside, Naruto began his speech. Congratulations General Ao, for your services against the universe and myself, you'll be given a merciful death for one of such importance as yourself. Please do remember when you die, this was a special occasion just for you. Anko, Kushina, Naomi, and a revived Tazuna had been patching their wounds with the supplies given to them by the clones, and a couple wolves who had an odd sense of loyalty to Naruto. They didn't question it, seeing how they had saved their lives, were wearing completely different clothes. Anko had been bandaged around her midsection, though still wearing her fishnet shirt and fishnet stockings. Did I get that right? She also wore a black shirt with the words, "Bad bitch," on it in white, with a skirt that had kunai pouches, which she had also been resupplied by the clones. Her hair was back in its ponytail form. Kushina was wearing a fishnet shirt, orange shirt, black shinobi pants with 4 kunai pouches, a custom-made katana with a diamond-studded hilt with its own sheath on her thigh. Her hair had been dried out and given back its shine. Naomi had this time decided to bandage her chest before putting on a black shirt that exposed her midriff. She rebandaged her arms, along with fingerless gloves, and black shinobi pants. A brown belt that had 2 kunai pouches, and across her back was a sword sheath where she had a tanto secured. She had turned her into 2 pigtail D with 2 bangs in the front hanging down. While they were changing, the 3 women had made sure on more than one occasion to make sure the clones weren't looking, which they found amusing. Tazuna had simply preferred to just be bandaged and given new building clothes. When he had been revived, naturally he freaked out, but after a slap by Anko and a brief explanation he was for the most part calm, but you could still tell he couldn't get over the fact he actually died and was then brought back to life. What the hell is that? Anko shouted, drawing everyone else's attention. The other 3 noticeably got worried as well, and it wasn't like they were unjustified. About a large distance from them was a giant ball made of literal earth, and then there was a meteor coming from the sky right on top of it as if it was attempting to crush it. Boss is what, trying to make sure Ao stays dead, though he might be going overboard. One of the clones answered. Well, how do we stop it? Kushina asked. You can't. With the size and force they have, attempting to stop it would be suicide at its very finest. Where's Naruto then? Shouldn't he be over here with us? Naomi asked. Who do you think made it? The second clone responded, feeling a pull. Now, Anko said. Shin, watch them for me, will ya? The wolf nodded as he shrunk to a more respectable size and walked over to the family. Naruto, however, didn't notice as he was being dragged into the forest. One thing was more than likely for sure, Otsutsuki Naruto was back in the elemental nations. Nothing was going to be the same. Naruto sighed as he sat up against a tree, his blue eyes watching his kunoichi as they fought against his clones, displaying good taijutsu and ninjutsu skills but not great. Anko flipped over a clone and launched snakes at him while his back was turned, only for the clone to slash the snakes into smoke with a kunai and charge at her. The clone clashed kunai with Anko before kicking her in the stomach before flipping her over his head. The clone then slammed his foot into Anko's chest, making her cough up blood before kicking her aside. Naruto's eyes then traveled to Naomi, who was getting her beat quite literally. He winced as she was thrown into a tree. He was positive he heard something break. His eyes then finally landed on the mother of said girl, Kushina, who was in a sword duel against he final clone and was actually faring well. Kushina blocked an aggressive thrust by RHE clone and retaliated with a slash, forcing it to block. Returning with a growl, the clone unleashed powerful slashes at the red-headed woman who was unable to keep up, resulting in her getting slashed across the body, giving her multiple wounds. The clone then flipped over Kushina, who only kept up with him due to the clone going 40% and Kushina's own battle instincts. The clone kicked Kushina in the face, sending her flying only to reappear next to her, grab her leg, and slam her into the ground brutally. "That's enough, we're done for the day," Naruto said, his voice automatically roaring over the empty forest. The clones nodded before healing the three women, then dispelling. The three kunoichi then stood before the Otsutsuki with their heads bowed as a sign of respect. Originally he had thought when the three women had approached him angry that they were horrified they had been saved by a guy who was quite literally a god in every sense and would demand he leave them alone forever. How wrong he was. Flashback. "Wait, so the reason you're mad is because I didn't tell you I was basically a primordial being earlier on?" Naruto asked. "Of course I am," Kushina yelled, thinking that alone obviously made sense. It didn't. "And why exactly is that, Kushina? Do you know how long I've been waiting for something like this to happen? Ever since I taught Naomi how to read, we would always read the Uzumaki history of how the Otsutsuki were the origin of our clan. Not just our clan but had adopted the Senju and Uzumaki as well. I had always prayed to Kami that if one was ever returned to the world, I would serve them without question as long as they helped you destroy Konoha and ruin everyone who tried to kill your daughter." Naruto finished. The redhead nodded with her head down, tears threatening to escape her eyes. A hand on her shoulder brought her out of her self-misery as Naruto looked her in her eyes. "Very well, Uzumaki Kushina, I will grant you your request of destroying and ruining Konoha. All I ask is your undying loyalty to me and my plans for this world." His answer was Kushina slamming into him with a hug as she freely cried, "Yes. Thank you. Thank you." His eyes traveled to the other two women. "And what of you two? Do you have the same desire to watch that village burn, or is it something more?" Anko stepped up first, holding her arm as bit her lip shyly. I want to watch Konoha burn from the inside. I want to be by Kushina-sensei and Naomi's side, but most importantly, I don't want to be forgotten. I don't want to be a distant memory that just shows up when someone needs something done." Naomi stepped forward afterwards, her eyes showing hatred and fury. "I want that stupid village and everyone in it to die. I've heard about what they say behind our backs, the things they'd do if they got the chance. I hate it. They call us demons and whores, yet they go around selling their bodies to the first one with a few ryo to spend. I just wanna live with people who don't hate me and those I love, that's all." To say everyone was shocked was an understatement. Even Naruto, who had seen it all, was shocked as the rage she had displayed in her voice before he grinned. "That shitty village is gonna regret messing with you when I'm done." Flashback end. Since then the three had gotten closer to him and he had begun training them because, as he said, that village was going to pay. He just didn't like Konoha at all, honestly. It was filled and ruled by arrogant bigots who thought they were above everything in existence and beyond. It was truly amusing and hard not to kill them every time he got bored just to see their scared and terrified faces. He had shown the three the pocket dimensions his Rinne Sharingan gave him access to. Basically the ones Kagaya took Team 7 in their fight, with a few new ones. The only world he hadn't shown them was the snow world, where his fortress of thousands of Zetsu guarding it, and it was honestly more of a training ground and warzone to keep his skills sharp. "Naruto-kun, are we improving?" Naomi asked before blushing as his blue eyes met hers. "Slowly but yes, we still need to work on your taijutsu and chakra control. Anko needs more jutsu and bigger chakra reserves. Kushina simply needs to get a bit stronger," he said. "I still can't believe you can use the Shadaime's Mokuten and the Uzumaki clan's chakra chains. That's so cool," Anko squealed. "Can you teach us about the Rinnegan and Sharingan's powers? I know those on the councils are gonna do their best to have that damn Uchiha unlock the Mangekyo in some feeble attempt to control my daughter and to some extent, me." Kushina asked, knowing full well of what the council planned to do. After Itako failed to not only break into the Uzumaki compound but also using her Mangekyo on Kushina and Naomi, she was threatened by Hiruzen should she attempt to attack the Uzumaki clan head again, he wouldn't be responsible for what happened to her. Sure, the Uchiha didn't like that threat and it only fueled their hatred for him in the village, it made it easier to stomp out their wretched clan even more. It was honestly their last resort as Kushina only took orders from the Sandaime who came to deliver said orders personally, seeing how none of his Anbu could be trusted. Naruto shrugged, sure. Like I said before, the Rinnegan is the dojutsu of the Rakudo Sennin, Sage of Six Paths. Even if you merely get a transplanted Rinnegan, it grants immense power. I'm able to see chakra as well as its flow within the body and even the activated tenketsu of the 8 gates. One who possesses the Rinnegan can also easily master any jutsu as well as all 5 nature elements and create black receivers into which I can transmit my chakra into. For example, he formed a black receiver. These are called the Kuroki Jushinki, chakra receivers. With these I can inject my chakra into those I put them into. Chakra can be transmitted across vast distances, though I usually don't use them at all. The Rinnegan also has the power to control up to 6 bodies called the 6 paths. They're referred to as Tendo, Diva, Shirado, Asura, Ninjendo, Human, Chikushodo, Animal, Gakido, Preta, and Jigokudo, Naraka. There however is one last path called the Gedo, Outer. With the Gedo path, a person could control all 6 paths using additional bodies. He informed them. So, what do they do? Anko asked for Kushina and Naomi. The Tendo path allows me to control gravity. The Shirado path grants me the ability to turn my arms into weapons or armor. The Ninjendo path grants me the power to rip out someone's soul and or read their mind, an invaluable ability. The Chikushodo path allows me to summon many animals and animals to fight for me, whether I have a summoning contract for them or not. The Gakido path lets me absorb any and all kinds of ninjutsu. The Jigokudo path allows me to summon and control the King of Hell, a large head mainly used for interrogation. Honestly, it's better for me to show you than tell you. Finally, the Gedo path has the ability to revive the dead, cue the shocked gasps, and those with certain Rinnegan have their own special powers to make them even more overpowered. He shouted, snapping the females out of their stupor. Do you have special Rinnegan powers? Naomi wondered out loud. Due to having the most overpowered Rinnegan in existence, yes I do. Naruto said, thinking back on just how he acquired every single jutsu the Rinne Sharingan had. He acquired Limbo from Madara, seeing how the ancient Uchiha's body had formed with Naruto's during the sealing and absorption. He had stolen a Menetejikara from Sasuke the first time round of Frere, absorbing the Uchiha, Yin Chakra. He had acquired the creation of all things from Hagoromo, all-killing Ash Bones, Amanamanaka, and Yomatsu Hirasaka from Kagaya. Add that with unlocking his 9-tomoed Rinne Sharingan, Eternal Mangekyo, and Byakugan from Kagaya and Shin, he was never really in danger of dying either, since his healing factor's speed was unmatched by anything. I am seriously overpowered, he thought before being pulled out of his thoughts by Anko pocking his face. Finally. Well, what are they? She grinned brightly at his twitching eye. This was gonna be a long day. Later that day, Anko, Naomi, Kushina all groaned as they entered the house, foregoing dinner in favor of going upstairs to sleep the night away. Naruto walked in shortly afterward with a smirk on his face. After he explained every one of his Rinnegan and Mangekyo powers, he proceeded to train them into the ground brutally. Like he said before, they needed a lot of improvement. Well, Kushina didn't, but Anko and Naomi did. Even though they had gotten rid of Naomi's chakra control problem after he loosened the seal a bit, she needed taijutsu and ninjutsu work along with how to resist powerful genjutsu. Anko needed assistance with fighting with people in straight-up taijutsu and needed other jutsu than just snakes along with the reserves to handle using said jutsu without passing out or nearly dying. Kushina was perfectly fine where she was for now, seeing how she could easily handle multiple Anbu on her own without exhaustion. Shadow clones were incredibly useful for training purposes, and it showed today. Speaking of Kushina, He got to find out just exactly why her and Naomi hated Konoha with a passion almost as strong as he did. So Minato turned out to be a piece of shit. The usual people were fangirls of Minato and everyone hates them except the old man, Sume, and her daughter Hana. Amusing, he thought to himself. In certain dimensions, no one had stood by Kushina and her daughter or in some cases him after the Kyuubi attack. Everyone called his death and if she protected him, they called for hers as well. Another thing, just like in certain dimensions everyone in Konoha hated and despised him, in others they loved him and adored him. After eating dinner and chatting with Tsunami and Tazuna, he resigned to the couch and closed his eyes before he felt someone sit on his legs. It was Kushina. She wore a long white t-shirt with the Uzumaki swirl on the back. Her red bangs covering her face as the rest flowed down to her butt and over his feet. Something wrong? He asked as he sat up, wrapping an arm around her waist. I just want to thank you. Her voice was soft yet trembling as if she was about to cry. It's Noth. Her finger pressed against his lips to silence him. Stop talking, she commanded and Naruto blinked. Before you showed up, I was losing hope. I was giving my all to show those people that their words and taunts never got to me, that no one would touch my daughter or threaten her without losing their life. When Ao showed up, I was honestly hoping he would kill us just to end my daughter's suffering. She didn't deserve to be brought into a world like this. Always putting on a tough front for her and being comfort when she cried at night when the villagers and shinobis taunting got to her. When you showed up and gave us those memories, you gave us hope again. You gave me hope. The tears were falling freely from the woman's violet eyes. Naruto brought her close and rubbed her back soothingly, whispering sweet words into her ear, calming her down. She gripped his shirt tightly as she sniffed, rubbing her head into his chest. I'm so glad Tamari and Mei taught me how to deal with women. He thought, thinking back to his first wives. Eventually Kushina fell asleep, so Naruto carried her up to her room she shared with Anko and Naomi and knocked on it. Naomi peeked out and gasped, Mom. Is she okay? She asked. Yeah, she's just mentally and emotionally tired. Naruto said as he handed Kushina over to Anko, who opened up the door. Thanks, we'll make sure she rests. Anko said. Naruto nodded and went back downstairs. In order to take over this world and not risk draining it dry with warfare, we'll need powerful and influential allies. Yummy, Naruto said from the dark depths of Naruto's mind. Indeed, but first we need to see who's who and who's worth converting and who just needs to be put down like dogs. There had been times whereas not even the other Jinchuriki liked Naruto, not that he cared. They had treated the Biju like their villages did, with resent, only calling on their chakra to defend themselves and then talking down on them afterwards. Made it easier for him to rip out the tailed beasts and give them freedom. The only ones that continually understood and liked Naruto actually were the tailed beasts themselves, seeing as how they could all bond together in some form of way. Not everyone is worth saving, that I've learned and understood. Naruto muttered as he laid back down on the couch. Those that oppose the Lord of Chaos all die in the end, begging for mercy and forgiveness for their stupidity. Worlds have been conquered, this one will not be any different. With Yami's laughter in his head, Naruto fell asleep with a smirk on his face with one last thought. No, it will not. The next day, once again Naruto was in the woods watching Naomi and Anko battle the clones. Kushina was ordered to sleep. He had 2 clones watching the house and 2 more clones following Tsunami, who had went out for groceries. He snapped his fingers and watched as the clones disappeared, leaving the 2 females confused. Your next opponent will be me, he said as he stood up. Immediately both girls looked terrified, but we aren't ready, Naomi said, backing up when he glared at her. So you're admitting you're a loser? A worthless shinobi? If you don't have the guts to fight someone stronger than you and find a way to beat them, then you are pathetic. Worthless. A waste of time. What good are you anyways? He yelled, taunting her. Hey, don't talk to her like that, Anko yelled upon seeing the rage build up in the girl's face. What are you gonna do about it? Cry with your pillow stuff in your face again? If you aren't going to fight me, then you're just as worthless as she is, snake whore. Those words immediately sent the two into a blind rage as they lashed out at Naruto, who simply grinned. Ducking under a kick from Anko, he backhanded Naomi to the ground, then blocked a punch from Anko before kicking her down. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naomi yelled as 50 clones appeared in the clearing with katanas, the original with the special sword she had been given. Cute. But I've got a better sword. Holding a hand in the air, a sword formed out of thin air into his grasp. Its grip was covered in bandages, the blade completely black though easily showing Naruto's reflection. Naomi and her clones simply growled as they ran towards the Otsutsuki. Naruto blocked the first few wild slashes of some clones and easily dispelled them with a slash across the chest or decapitation. Ducking to avoid a group of snakes aiming for his face, he sent a wordless Shinra Tensei towards Anko, who was pushed into the woods. He jumped back to avoid an explosive tag going off right in front of him and smirked at the blue ball of energy in Naomi's right hand. Looks like you completed the Rasengan after all, I'm shocked. He mocked her. Said girl just screamed with rage as she attempted to attack him with it, only for the ball to self-implode on her, sending her into a tree. Too much chakra. Not even balance. He scolded as he dispelled 4 more clones. Kaden. Ruka no Jutsu. Naruto whistled in appreciation at the large fire dragon heading his way at a high speed. Looks like her reserves are improving greatly, I'm impressed. He substituted himself with a wood clone nearby in the tree and watched as it melted. He jumped down from the tree just as Naomi pounced on the branch he was at, only to recuperate and surround him with Anko. Ninjutsu's fine. Lesson 2. He backhanded Anko, then kicked Naomi, sending them both to the ground only for them to get back quickly and rush him. Using his flexibility, he jumped over Anko using her shoulders as springs. However, Naomi, expecting this, slammed another incomplete Rasengan into his face, the same result as before, blowing up, sending all 3 flying back and creating a shockwave that sent all animals in the area that had been watching them scattering for safety. With Kushina. Kushina was currently in a red and white apron, a red shirt, and skin-tight black pants, helping Tsunami with the dishes preparing for dinner. She was thinking back to before Naruto had came in their lives. She was an all-time low before he showed, whether or not she liked it, it was true. Dealing with when would someone get the balls to attack Naomi or them together at once, when would Jiraiya and Kakashi attack her daughter when they had somehow once broke into their home, when would Danzo and his rude attempt to attack them, it was stressful. On top of the fact she didn't trust anyone from Konoha and had to get their food and clothing from outside the village, it was tiring. She was only but one person, as Anko was already disliked heavily due to her past apprenticeship to Orochimaru, and Tsume had her own clan and family to worry about. She couldn't ask Hiruzen for much, otherwise that damned village could use that as favoritism and vote him out of office and Danzo in. That was the last thing either of them wanted. The only source of income they got was from S-rank missions she took and from her friend who was a general in the Fire Daimo's samurai army. So when Naruto showed up, she was more than happy giving him her loyalty, and so far he hadn't let her down. He wasn't abusive, a pervert for the most part, or demanding. He just wanted to help them and rebuild her home village, Uzushiogakure. It didn't matter much to her about the other things she had seen in his memories. From what she saw, he was a hell of a better man than Minato or his loser of a sensei ever was and would be by light years. That's when she heard it. Boom. She looked up instinctively due to her ninja reflexes, looking at the window as she saw a powerful breeze sweep the trees past. Kushina-san, what do you think that was? Tsunami asked. After getting no response, she looked over to see the red-headed woman gone and the back door open. The woman blinked. She didn't think she could move that fast. Naomi's mindscape. Naruto groaned and sat up to find himself in a sewer. Never thought I'd see this place again, he muttered. Standing up, he walked over to the darkest parts of the sewer and stepped back to avoid a claw from grasping him. You have far better reflexes than my jailer. Out of the darkness came a large fox head with its mouth snarling, red eyes glaring at the male before it. Where is Naomi anyways? He asked. This conversation does not require that girl, but alas, I can't stop when she chooses to arrive in here. Damn right you can't, you overgrown carpet. A feminine voice shouted. The fox groaned in annoyance before banging its head against the bars in defeat. Naruto-kun, why are you here? Hey furball, why are we here? Naomi said, walking over to the cage. If you'll shut up, I'll show you. It barked back. Naomi looked offended and was about to retort until a hand was placed on her shoulder. She looked over and saw Naruto shaking his head. You bickering back and forth isn't going to help this relationship prosper. He lectured. Suddenly a red light covered the Kyuubi's head and eventually its entire body. The Biju began to shrink down until its form now resembled a woman. Naomi looked over to Naruto for an explanation only to see him blinking slowly, trying to process it as well. Apparently this was his first time seeing this as well. The light died down, revealing a woman with black hair leading to the middle of her back. Her eyes were red, though you could only see one of them. Cute red and white fox ears on the top of her head. She wore a black kimono which protected her huge and womanly curves from being seen, and finally a white tail with red fur coming out of her backside. Quote. Naruto was speechless. He had crossed just about every Naruto dimension there was, and he had only seen a female version of Kurama once. He had a better chance of seeing a female Madara than he did a female Kurama. You're female, Naomi shouted in surprise. The woman looked annoyed at how loud the teenager was and made it known with her glare. I've had all female hosts, what did you expect? She then turned to Naruto, who was still blinking yet not saying anything. Fox got your tongue. She taunted with a smirk. The Otsutsuki snorted. Well, excuse me for wondering how the hell you're a woman, seeing how I usually come across males all the time. He said. She sighed before walking up to the bars of the cage, poking her head out. Your memories are quite interesting indeed. In all my years of being in this damned world, I never thought I'd meet someone that would surpass father's or Kagaya's power so greatly as you do. I was born a woman along with my sisters Matabi, Isarabi, and Isobu. Out of all of us, we four are the most level-headed and least corrupt. What do you mean, least corrupt? Naomi asked. My brother's son Goku, Kukuo, Saiken, Chome, and Gyuki became corrupt after father died. They often attempted to try to rule over us, seeing themselves as superior to us because they were male. They corrupt their Jinchuriki hosts, wanting them to believe they're invincible. Naruto frowned. That wasn't usually what happened during these dimension runs. The Biju were usually so relatable. Anything else? I want to offer my body, heart, soul, and awesomeness to you on one condition. She said. His sweat dropped as she said body and awesomeness. Why me, and what's the condition? For starters, I'd rather be on the side of someone who could easily wipe me out without a mere glance, plus you're quite the looker, she complimented, ignoring Naomi's glare. Second, I owe it to Kushina and her daughter for letting myself get placed into such a weak genjutsu by yet another Uchiha dog. She snarled. And the condition? Free my sisters, she pleaded. I could care less about my brothers, but please, save my sisters from whatever their pathetic and ignorant hosts have become or attempted to turn them into. She looked at him silently, begging, even bowing her head in submission. Naomi was speechless, for the dreaded Nin Tails to be a woman was already mind-boggling, but now she was willingly giving her servitude to him. Help out Naomi and you have a deal. He waited for a name. Kiyomi. My name is Kiyomi and I'll do everything in my power to help her. Especially since I have all of my chakra. Kiyomi said. Naruto smirked and nodded. He could feel himself waking up, and judging from Kiyomi's disappointed look, he was right. We'll talk later. Real world. Naomi awoke and immediately winced, feeling pain from her right arm. She looked at it only for her eyes to widen. From her hand to her elbow was covered in bandages. It was also still slightly bleeding from the looks of the dark red staining the bandages. She looked up to see Anko, her mom, and Naruto conversating back and forth. Now that we know where the rest of the tailed beasts are, what's stopping you from taking them now? Anko asked. bandages around her midsection and head due to the explosion the Rasengan caused. I made you all a promise, didn't I? He asked, shocking the three. Even after such a threat has been revealed to you, you still want to put us first. Kushina muttered. Naruto nodded as he picked up Naomi bridal style, causing her to blush. Now come on, that's enough training for today. Your wounds need to heal and I'm sure all three of you are hungry. Along with the fact of Kiyomi not shutting off Naomi and instead helping her, changes can be made that will shock that pathetic little village. What about that Senju bitch, Tsunade? Should she return to the village, our plans will have to be sped up tremendously. Yami reminded him. Do you believe she is the same? Of course she is. It's like every run we take where Kushina's alive, that big whore believes that the Biju belong to her dead clan or that's she's some top shit because she's Hashirama's granddaughter. In many of their dimension runs, Tsunade was less than pleased to see either him or Kushina and only thought for herself. It was one of the reasons he never truly cared for her nor Jiraiya whatsoever anymore. Both were losers in his opinion, one who drinks and gambles running away from reality and sells her companion's body to back off her debt collectors, and the other a self-proclaimed, super pervert, who wrote smut novels, went in brothels and played with prostitutes, and sexually harassed women and invaded their privacy constantly. However, the lingering of Yami's voice intrigued him. Yes, when you do retrieve the ones Kiyomi's sisters, give them powerful women as their containers. Going off if what she says is true, they'll not only be annoyed but disgusted by their obsolete containers and would immediately take the chance to be given someone who's competent. And whose advice is better to take than the man who freed them? Keep giving me ideas like this and I'll have no choice but to merge us together completely. Naruto joked. Yami was an incredibly smart tactician, planner, and leader, whereas Naruto himself was a teacher, fighter, and warlord. Even Kami, Yami, and Shinny had agreed should the two of them merge into one mind, Naruto would easily be the smartest mind to ever live. I wouldn't mind becoming one again. After all, the only reason I even became a thing was because you liked being so sadistic and wanted to terrorize people with two versions of us. Couldn't argue with him there. When they arrived back to the house, immediately Tsunami, Inari, and Tazuna began asking if they were okay. We're fine, just exhausted from fighting. Anko said. Naomi Nichan, can you teach me how to channel my chakra when you feel better? Inari begged. Sure, squirt, as soon as someone puts me down. She glared at Naruto, who snorted then abruptly dropped her on her. The redhead escaped as she hit the floor and glared at the Otsutsuki, who walked over and laid on the couch without a care in the world. Jerk! She yelled, rubbing her butt. The three older women giggled before walking over to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Tazuna merely chuckled then went back upstairs with Inari, who whined about not being able to learn from his Oni-san and Nei-chan. She looks so happy around him. Kushina said with a smile as she watched her daughter jump on Naruto, earning a grunt from the male. I'm eternally grateful to Naruto-san for saving me from being defiled by those dirty men. Tsunami took a moment to shudder upon remembering the memory. I don't want to think what could have happened if none of you had shown up. She said. Anko rubbed the woman's back in a comforting manner. We all owe a lot to Naruto. I just don't know how we can repay him. Mom, Naomi squeaked. The three women looked over to see Naruto holding Naomi in the air above his head. Otsutsuki Naruto, you put her down this instant. Kushina scolded, causing the male to raise an amused eyebrow. You know, that normally works if you're talking to normal people. He chuckled. The red-headed mother stuttered for a bit, her face turning red with embarrassment. Put her down, Baka, she yelled. You wanna take her place, Kushina-chan? I'd be happy to hold you in my arms too. He teased. Embarrassed beyond any point ever in her life, Kushina summoned a katana and rushed after Naruto, who wisely took off outside with Naomi laughing following behind them. I've never seen her that happy before. Anko said, feeling slightly jealous. Really? They look incredibly happy with him. It's a shame you won't stay long after you kill Gato. Tsunami said, getting the ramen from the stove. Thanks to Naruto's creation of all things, he had given the family many things they usually had no means of affording. Yeah, it was true, after they had killed Gato and Tazuna rebuilt the bridge, they would head back to Konoha to begin planning for its downfall. And show everyone in the village just how insignificant they truly were. With Naruto, Kushina, and Naomi. Naruto bobbed and weaved as a red-faced Kushina and grinning Naomi slashed their katanas at him. He flipped over both of them before forming hand seals, Gokaku no Jutsu. He spit out a massive fireball that practically roared as it charged at them. The two raised a hand each and shouted, Sweden, Sujinheki. Raising a wall of water, they consumed the fireball, putting it out and sending steam to cover the forest ground. Hopping into a tree above, Kushina looked at Naomi, who was using her senses to find their annoying leader. Friend, lover, what was he to them? It was due to her shinobi training that at the last second she avoided a kunai aimed for her head. She glared across the trees where she saw Naruto, who was looking bored, twirling another kunai in his fingers, his right eye now sporting the 3-tomo Sharingan that was spinning slowly, his left eye still blue. Fighting in an apron, Kushi-chan. He mocked. What'll happen if you lose all your clothes? Said woman got a gleam in her eyes as she grabbed the apron and ripped it away, surprising both Naruto and Naomi as the woman literally flashed over to where Naruto was, jabbing her katana where Naruto was. Only for him to turn into a flock of crows that started pecking at Kushina. Get away from me, you bothersome bastards, she said, swiping at them. She looked at her daughter only to see her fighting Naruto when a hand wrapped around her throat and slammed her against the tree. She was about to curse when she blushed at how close the Otsutsuki was to her, their noses just inch apart. She could practically feel his breath on her lips, his blue eyes staring her violet ones. You let your guard down, he criticized. Had I been an enemy, your lack of focus would have gotten you killed. I know. She regained her breath as he let her down and his grip on her throat relaxed. He turned his head to his clone that was toying with Naomi, and judging from her face she was having fun. Naruto released Kushina's throat before snorting at the half-hearted glare she sent him. This is necessary because I don't want none of you dying on me. I can bring you back to life, but it costs me and I'd rather avoid it if possible. What does it cost you? She said, though quietly moving her hand back to her sword. He chuckled quietly. You'll have to do better than that, he thought before his eternal Mangekyo formed. In a flash, their swords were drawn and clashed together in a blurry of slashes, carving up the tree entirely until the top of it fell to the ground, peeling. The two jumped down to the ground floor before engaging again. Naruto ducked and jabbed at Kushina with a thrust aimed for her lungs, though she blocked it and retaliated with a slash across the chest, which healed instantly though destroyed the shirt he was wearing. He wasn't given time to make a perverted comment as he was hit with the memories of his clone dispelling and then dodging a sword thrust aimed for his back. Backflipping away from the mother and daughter duo that had reunited, he stared down at them impassively, turning into what he dubbed his teacher mode. You both have grown during these short couple of days. You've taken my teachings to heart, you've listened to my words of advice, you even look at me as a potential lover. He grinned at the huge blushes that formed covering their faces before returning his face to its emotionless state. Naruto then activated his Rinne Sharingan that showed 5 tomo instead of 9 this time. However, the sky began to turn dark as rain started pouring onto the three of them, drenching all of them and causing their hair to fall over their faces. Now I'm putting what I've taught you to the test. If you survive for the next 3 hours, you pass. If you don't fight with everything you got, I'll kill you. His voice was void of emotion, and honestly it scared the two Uzumaki women. They now truly saw why he was a primordial god. Someone with power and rank far beyond anyone they had ever seen. His hair covered his left eye once more, though you could see the purple of the dojutsu easily from time to time. The red of the eternal Mangekyo shining brightly in the dark, almost lulling them to sleep. Any other rules? Kushina asked, barely able to breathe under the raw pressure of the power he was displaying. Kyuubi or now Kiyomi's was nothing compared to this. Naruto merely tilted his head and Kushina felt offended. He acted like she had just said something dumb. Mom, look out! Naomi shouted at the last minute, tackling her and her mother out of the way. Kushina's eyes widened as a fireball barely missed them, hitting the ground, and sending chunks of earth everywhere. Her eyes traveled back up to the branch the Otsutsuki previously was to find him gone. Mom, come on. We have a better chance fighting him if we stick together. The younger of the two said. Why yeah, you're right. Refocusing herself, Kushina and Naomi walked back to back deeper into the training forest Naruto had designed to train them in away from civilization and had put barriers up. I wonder how Anko's doing. With Anko. Anko glared at the man behind her with a scowl. Mitarashi Anko was many things. Pervert. Sadistic. Psycho. Crazy. Protective. Loyal. Kind to those who deserved it. Awesome. Sexy. Dango lover. But most important of all, she was sensitive. Before Naruto had joined into her life, she was much like Kushina. Waiting for someone to get the balls and attack her. All her friends had practically abandoned her when she defended Kushina and her baby. Not that she had many. Kurenai had stopped talking to her and even denounced their friendship after she found out Anko wasn't going to hate Kushina or Naomi. Yugao had also backstabbed her all so she could get on the good side of her higher-ups. Her exact words were, "Do you know what that would do to my reputation if I got seen hanging around the village rejects? Do me a favor and stop talking to me." Hana had for some time stopped talking to her as some of her civilian friends had been killed by Kiyomi, though that was stomped out by Sume. Unfortunately, neither Anko or Kushina wanted much to do with Hana, seeing how they could easily see the dirty looks Hana gave Naomi from to time. The Otsutsuki not only saved her from a fate worse than death, but he was kind to her. He gave her a new goal in life. Like Naomi and Kushina, he had started training her in different things other than what she learned from Orochimaru. Her chakra reserves were like mid-Jonin level before she met him, but now they were easily reaching high Anbu low cage level reserves. The only problem she really had was that he tended to spend more time with her sensei and her daughter than her. She knew how fast she was improving compared to Naomi, though it annoying. She was honestly just scared of being forgotten again. She had abandonment issues because of Orochimaru, and she honestly believed they would stay with her forever. Whenever someone was chosen over her for anything, it'd bring back horrible memories. Her current issue as of now, though, was the grinning male who was holding her from behind, ignoring her anger. You know, you look so much more sexy when you're mad. He teased. Red covered her face, both from embarrassment and anger. What do you want? Shouldn't you be training Kushina-sensei and Naomi? She snapped. She winced as his grip tightened and he brought her closer. She could feel his glare staring right through her. Anko, I would never forget about you. Why do you think I'm here right now? Naruto said. The Tokubetsu Jonin shrugged. I know you won't forget me. I just want as much time with you as them. She sighed as his grip loosened as he massaged her ribs. I'll spend more time with you, I promise. He said, gently biting her earlobe, making her mewl. Why send a clone when I could have you? She asked, disappointed as she rested her back against his chest. Training? I need to see how far they'll last going all out against me. He trailed his hands to her stomach and began massaging her. Can I join? She asked, sighing. The clone shrugged, tugging on her ear with her teeth. You could go help them, but you'll need to know exactly what's going on. The purple-haired woman nodded quickly, grinning, and suddenly the clone felt bad for its creator. With Naomi. Naomi ran at full pace through the forest at high speed, panting heavy as she jumped over fallen trees. Everything just went to shit within seconds. Naruto had just jumped down from the trees and full-out attacked them with the intent to kill. He had separated both of them, taking her mom on but sending a clone to chase after her. She didn't know what happened to her mother, but she did know she had to survive this crazy hot cool-ah. Thud. Going somewhere. She looked up and paled at the sight of her attacker. He had a scar over his right eye along with blood falling from the cut, his hair covering his left eye along with his two white horns sticking out, though the right one was broke. His Rinne Sharingan had been reverted back to a regular Rinnegan and his Mangekyo returned to a simple 3-tomo state. His upper body was covered in cuts, slashes, and burn marks, his right arm completely black, and his shinobi pants in tears. Hey Naruto-kun, where's Ka-chan? She said shaking. You'll be joining her soon. Her eyes widened before they narrowed and a snarl covered her face. You killed her. She shouted at him though her anger didn't even seem to faze him. Naruto shrugged. I told you what would happen, it's not my fault she couldn't survive long enough. Red chakra started to swarm around the girl, her teeth sharpened, her nails turned into claws, her eyes turned blood red, pupils turned to slits, and 4 tails split from her backside. I'm going to break you. She growled out before lashing out at her fellow redhead. Naruto jumped away at the last second, avoiding being clobbered by 2 tails. He whistled in appreciation as he saw the chunk of earth missing from the ground before flashing through one-handed seals, Kaden, Ryuan Hoka no Jutsu. Blowing out several dragon-headed fireballs at Naomi, he already prepared for another attack, seeing the teen flash through hand seals with an enhanced speed. Looks like being more in tune with Kiyomi instead of being separated gives her better reaction timing. But there's one thing I never understood, what does Kiyomi mean having all her chakra? Didn't Minato seal half and half? Naomi summoned 4 clones that summoned giant water walls, managed to block out 3 of the fireballs, but 4 still managed to hit Naomi and her clones, sending steam to cover the area. The Otsutsuki jumped into the air, shouting with a roar, Kaden, Goenka. Kneading and converting his chakra to fire, he created multiple fireballs, sending them down at Naomi, who retaliated with a multitude of earth barricades to cover herself. Those shelters won't save you, Uzumaki. He muttered. Upon making contact with their target, or the ground, debris went everywhere as the fireballs exploded, sending roaring flames and loud noises everywhere. With both the rain roaring down on them and the flames of fire still burning on around them, the air on the ground could easily knock you out and kill you by itself. The red-headed male dropped to the floor with a thud, the soft soil underneath his feet mushy from the heat. Sensing something from his right side, he stepped back and avoided a katana slash from cutting him in 2. His would-be attacker had red hair, a torn and half-burnt Jonin vest, her black shirt ripped, her shinobi pants torn, and her mouth dripping blood. Her exposed skin had cut slashes and her breathing was heavy. So you survived after all, Kushina. He clicked his tongue in annoyance. Said redhead just growled at him before swinging her sword at him again. He chose to block it this time, easily pushing her back. He rounded on her quickly, slashing from left to right, catching her off guard with a cut across the arm that made her stagger. Kushina, though, to her credit, recovered fast and kicked him in his side, earning a grunt. She even headbutted him, making him stumble back and draw blood. Do tell me, Kushina. How did you survive? I'm quite curious. Naruto asked. I'm a Uzumaki. I always find a way, Ibane. She responded, scowling. He returned her scowl with one of his own. My Amaterasu flames should have killed you, and by some small chance you lived. How did you escape the tree prison and its poisonous gas? If there always is one thing about this woman, her Uzumaki genes help her escape many things thought to be impossible. Yami said. It's quite annoying. Naruto replied. I thought you wanted her alive. Are you trying to kill them on purpose? I do. I just need to see how strong she is for when our plans go into action. Kiyomi's chakra still runs through my system, making me immune to any and all poisons known in the elemental nations, she grinned. Aside from the fact I'm a Uzumaki and former Jinchuriki, I'm a Otsutsuki descendant just like you, Dadbeo. I can adjust to anything. She said proudly before charging him with more force and power than before. Naruto, now on the defense, was impressed with Kushina's focus. Her strikes were more on point, though still not hitting him, carried more power, and were quicker. What's wrong? Scared now? Surprised? Kushi-chan, has you on the run now? She taunted, chasing after him as he backflipped onto the side of a tree. Naruto's focus was mainly on the growing amount of chakra coming from where Naomi was and the incoming source of chakra which he presumed was Anko. Fight back, idiot. Don't ignore me, Kushina shouted. The woman soon got her wish as a fist went straight into her stomach and knocked all the air out of her lungs before getting grabbed by her hair and thrown into the ground. She climbed out of the small crater her impact caused and glared at Naruto, who smirked at her. We've passed the 2-hour mark, but I'm having way too much fun to end this. Besides, I doubt Anko and your daughter want to end it either. Kushina's eyes widened before she looked back where she sensed her daughter laying and gasped. Covered in a layer of red chakra was Naomi. It was also clear, judging from her body, that her beatdown had caused for changes to be made. Her red hair, once smooth and laid down, had turned spiky going down to her mid-back, shoulder-length bangs framing her face, covering most of her left eye. It's basically Madara's hairstyle but red and shorter. Her whiskers marks thickened, her face lost whatever fat was left, and her eyes were cold. Her long-sleeved shirt that had one sleeve torn off showed her already impressive bust was even larger than before, rivaling Kushina's now. Her height, once at 5 feet 2, now was also at 5 feet 5. Naomi-chan. Kushina was shell-shocked at the new development. At that moment Anko chose to arrive. The sexy Anko-sama is here to saw. Her words died in her throat at the sight of the new Naomi. She looks so hot. Anko was by all means straight, but she couldn't deny when another person of the same sex was incredibly attractive. Did not see that coming. Naruto muttered. Whatever Kiyomi had did obviously helped Naomi, whether it was for getting in his favor or fighting wise. He had a good feeling this blessing was going to make taking over this timeline even easier. Naomi's eyes softened as they met with her mother's concerned ones. What happened to you, sweetie? She asked. When I got knocked unconscious, she took a moment to glare at Naruto, who just crossed his arms. She told me she had a surprise for me as an apology of sorts for our lives being so shitty. This was her apology? Anko exclaimed, oogling the teen. Naomi nodded, causing her hair to flow. It'll take a few hours for my mind to adjust to everything she told me about, but I can tell you this. My body has been adjusted to the point where I look like an adult. Aside from a few changes I wanted myself, my chakra control feels so much better. Aside from the jutsu Naruto-kun showed and taught me, Kiyomi gave me super strength. The male of the group groaned, sensing a headache. Super strength. He had a feeling it was far stronger than the senjus would ever be, but still. Naomi now knew many different taijutsu stances and had super strength. Could this get any better, worse? My reserves were already massive before, but now it's like they have no end. I can go up to 6 tails of her chakra without losing control. She said my speed should have a massive increase, and fire was also now one of my primary elements along with air. It got worse. Both groaned mentally, feeling the headache about to occur. Once again, he wasn't in any real danger. That being said, judging from how much Kiyomi truly provided Naomi with, she could easily be as strong as Rinnegan Madara, if not stronger. And that guy was annoying to fight. He just spammed Susanoo, Chibaku Tensei, and Tengai Shinsei all day because he couldn't get close enough to use the Jigokudo, Path's abilities. So what happened to Kiyomi? Anko asked after absorbing all the new information she had just been told. She might be out for a couple weeks. She used a lot of her chakra to make this work for me. Naomi rubbed the back of his neck, blushing slightly at the real reason Kiyomi made the physical adjustments for her so defined. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go kick his. Anko shouted, pointing at the eye-twitching Naruto. Yeah, TT Ebane. With Naomi-chan and her new awesome powers, we'll show him what happens when you mess with us. Kushina supported, her eyes sparkling as she raised her sword in Naruto's direction. With Naomi stepping in front of them, she grinned, showing some of her teeth and how sharp they were as her eyes turned to slits. Charge. I need an aspirin. I wonder if those 3 hotties up there looking at us. Multiverse, Throne Room, Kami, Yami, and Shinny all sneezed at the same time repeatedly. Is it allergy season already? Yami mumbled. No, just Naruto-kun thinking about us again. Kami sighed. saddened that her favorite person was out screwing with yet another timeline. It's so boring without him here. Shinny whined. Blame Ao's dumbass for going into a timeline where all the girls Naruto-kun liked have developed bodies. You're kidding. Yami looked at her sister in shock. The goddess shook her head. They look nothing like they did as kids or young teenagers. Aside from the fact the female Biju will change a few things to appease Naruto, they look like they did as young adults. Shinny suddenly grabbed her sister by her dress, nearly ripping it. You mean all of them have the power to make him stay there in them until they grow old? She yelled. The woman nodded, causing Shinny to drop her, then slumped to the floor depressed. There's something about those women that turns Naruto-kun into an insatiable monster. Kami said. They really missed their lover and fellow god. With Naruto and the girls. Naruto clicked his teeth as he dodged a katana slash from Kushina, used a kunai to cut two snakes sent by Anko, and backflipped to avoid being turned into splattered meat by Naomi. As his right eye bled, Naomi shouted, "Look out!" sending the other two women and herself scattering for cover as Naruto unleashed the black flames of Amaterasu. The flames instantly consumed the spot where they were at, turning it to literal ash and covering everything in the vicinity. In the trees, Naomi stared at the target of her affections with cold eyes. I'll show you just how strong I am. Then I'll tie you up and lock you in a room with me, Dot and Finn. And finally, I'll show you what it's like to get dominated by a god. She shrieked and jumped before turning around, getting a foot to the face, sending her into another tree. Rounding on her again with a punch, he barely missed her by an inch, ending up with his hand going straight into the trunk. Great. He ripped his arm out, scowling at the splinters now lodged into it. Our turn. Naomi grinned as Kushina and her god in front of him. Suiryuden no Jutsu. The two formed large dragons that shot at Naruto, knocking him back with the force of the water. Before he could respond, Anko jumped out, forming hand seals, Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu. Launching a fireball into the back of Naruto, the Otsutsuki was sent flying further into the forest. Stay together. If we overwhelm all at once, we'll easily beat him. Kushina said as the trio went into the forest after him. Immediately they heard laughter after Kushina's words of encouragement. Don't lie to them, Kushina. You know firsthand just how easily I can overpower you. In fact, I think I might just show you how futile this really is. On command, Roots thrust her from out the ground, wrapping around Naomi, forcing her to the ground. Shortly afterwards, Kushina was kicked into Anko, who was grabbed and pulled underground, leaving only her head for her to breath. Naruto appeared from out the ground with a tanto in his hand, pointing at the elder Uzumaki. I've already incapacitated both Anko and Naomi. Show me how strong you are, Kushina. He challenged. With pleasure. The Uzumaki woman replied, almost flashing in front of the male with a burst of speed, clashing swords with him. She was immediately put on the defensive as Naruto brought down a powerful slash every time he swung at her. Even with a standard tanto, the Otsutsuki proved he was once again better than her when it came to every aspect of fighting. Naruto, sensing the chakra buildup from Naomi and eventually her breaking free of the roots, raised his palm at Kushina, Shinra Tensei. Blowing her back, he turned around in time to catch Naomi's fist, aiming for his face. The ground cracking underneath the pressure of her chakra-enhanced punch. Mangekyo and Rinnegan eyes stared into red slit eyes, both of them not willing to give up any ground, though Naomi had a feeling she'd lose this very fast. That new look really suits you. I might have to fight off fanboys to defend what's mine. He teased and was rewarded with a heavy blush from the girl. The teenager's scowl intensified, though her red face made the fierce glare look even more cute. Idiot. We're fighting and that's what you say? You make it so easy. He pulled her by her fist, taking the surprised girl off her feet and throwing her into a tree. His Mangekyo swirled as he spun around and caught a sword strike, aiming for his rip the weapon from the surprised Uzumaki. He kneed her in the stomach before hitting her in the jaw before headbutting her. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Smoke cleared and he widened his eyes to see hundreds of Kushinas and Naomis. Let's go. One of them yelled as they all charged, yelling and shouting encouragement. Naruto grinned as the first few clones ran up on him, his Mangekyo spinning wildly. Enten, Honoikazuki. Dodging the first few punches, he surrounded himself with Amaterasu flames that turned into spikes, impaling then dispelling the clones. He summoned his katana just in time to block a strike from a clone and return the favor with a decapitation. Backflipping into the air, he spewed out a large fireball that instantly burned 20 clones. A few of Kushina's clones came up with an idea and acted on it, forming chakra chains and wrapping them around Naruto's limbs, binding him. A large gathering of chakra made Naruto look forward, and he was shocked to see 5 Naomis running at him with 5 red Rasengans that obviously had Kiyomi's chakra infused into them. As soon as they were a couple feet from him, his Rinnegan was revealed with 6 tomo showing. In a second, he seemingly escaped the chains, and in his place was a clone of his stationed by. He looked at their shocked faces and smiled. Amenetejikara gives the ability to shift locations of myself, others, objects, and ninjutsu. He then turned his attention to his clone. With the clones already in front of him, the clone grinned and uttered the words, Kai. The area blew up, sending whatever clones didn't dispel in the explosion into trees where they did dispel. There was quite literally a crater the size of the moon in the ground where the clone was. Still alive, I see. Naruto said, sensing Naomi behind him. I've still got more trick up my sleeve. She said, breathing heavily. Judging from how low her chakra was, she was running on fumes and was close to unconsciousness. Enough. You've improved a lot, Naomi. I'm proud of you. He praised her. She stopped in her tracks hearing the compliments and praise, but before she could say anything he was behind her. Now rest. Her world went back as she collapsed in his waiting arms. Underneath a Megakure, Akatsuki hideout, 5 figures stood around a round table in silence, digesting the new information brought before them. They all wore black cloaks that had red trimming and red clouds. The first figure was a tall man that had medium-length spiky orange hair, 6 piercings that donned his face, a metal bar through each of his ears, 3 studs through the side of his upper nose, and 1 spike stud on each end of the upper lip. On his right finger, he wore a purplish-gray ring that had the kanji for 0 on it. His eyes, however, were the real shocker. They were the same as both Naruto's, the Rinnegan. The second figure was a woman that had short, straight lavender hair with a bun, amber eyes, lavender eyeshadow, and a labrae piercing. She had a large light blue paper flower clipped on her bun. On her right middle finger was a ring with the kanji for white. The third figure was also a woman. She had onyx eyes, under which were long, pronounced tear troughs. She had jet black hair that was pulled back into a ponytail. His face was framed by center-parted bangs. Through the unzipped view of her cloak, she wore mesh armor with a necklace that had 3 silver rings with red gems inside them. On her right finger was a red ring that bore the kanji for vermilion. The fourth figure was a man. Th3 cloak covered his body as he had the hood concealing his hair with a orange mask with a spiral pattern focused around his right eye. On his right hand, he wore a purple ring with the kanji for jewel. The final figure was a plant, creature, thing. It had 2 sides of color, one white, one black. On its sides were Venus flytrap-like extensions enveloping their his and's upper body like a shell. Its hair was green, short, and spiky hair along with golden eyes. It wore on its right finger a green ring with the kanji for sign of the boar. The masked man spoke. Zetsu, is this information accurate? The creature nodded. Yes, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki has been receiving help from an outside source. It nodded. How is this possible? From what Itako said, Konoha and its people despise the Jinchuriki and the Uzumaki clan head, who would assist them. This time it was the lavender woman who spoke. And that is still true. No one except for the Sandaime and Inuzuka clan head care for them and would see their skeletons hanged and their skin burnt off. The now identified Uchiha spoke. The orange-haired male stayed silent, seemingly staring into space as if in deep thought. We have not been able to identify who this person is, nor have we been able to detect them. Why do we not move on their location now? The Rinnegan user finally spoke. Former Jinchuriki or not, Uzumaki Kushina will not stand a chance against me. Your arrogance shows greatly. Madara barked. The bun-haired woman glared at the masked man with a scowl. Pain is a god, a feeble woman such as the Uzumaki will not be a threat to him in the least. You clearly are stupid. Uzumaki Kushina survived getting a biju forcefully taken from her, stabbed by said biju, and then willed herself and her child to safety. The woman is on a level you will never grace, and you should tread carefully when approaching her. The woman then glared at Zetsu at the shot at her intelligence. Then what is your plan? Pain now spoke. We're speeding up the recruiting process and waiting to make our move. We still are 3 members short. Why not just extract the 9 tails and eliminate a potential threat now? Conan questioned. Itako answered at this time, why risk early exposure to the world? They'll more than likely be around civilians or in a town, and wiping out an entire town will draw unwanted attention towards us. We will do nothing for now, but should the Kyuubi Jinchuriki grow too strong, both her and her mother will be dealt with. Am I clear? With heads nodding at the table, Madara ended the meeting. Zetsu, monitor them. I want to know everything they do. With a nod, the plant being sunk into the ground. No one will ruin my chance to be with Rin-chan again. Amaterasu, heavenly illumination. Rasengan, spiraling sphere. Kaden, Ruka no Jutsu, fire release, dragon fire technique. Sweden, Sujinheki, water release, water formation wall. Sweden, Suiryuden no Jutsu, water release, water dragon bullet technique. Shinra Tensai, almighty push. Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu, fire release, great fireball technique. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, multiple shadow clone technique. Kaden, Ruka Hoka no Jutsu, fire release, dragon flame release song technique. Kaden, Goenka, fire release, great flame flower. Tengai Shinsei, shattered heaven. Chibaku Tensai, planetary devastation. Susano, long name, he with the ability to help by all means. Amenatejikara, heavenly hand power. Enten, Honoikazuki, blaze release, fire lightning. Naruto sat on the edge of the complete bridge with a bored sigh. You'd think the fat would have showed up by now, after all his men in the town never reported back. He muttered. Naomi snorted, I doubt someone like him cares much about his own lackeys as long as he gets to scurry away. She said, think he'll have some shinobi with him. Been itching to show off how much more of a badass I am. Anko boasted. Anko, with our luck, we'll run into some missing nin. Kushina said, rolling her eyes. The 4 were currently watching over Tazuna and his men, who were cheering due to the fact they had finally completed the bridge. After so many months of pain and suffering, we're finally free. One guy shouted, and Ernie cheers of approval. What the hell is this shit? A voice came from across the bridge. A short pudgy man with shaggy brown hair, small circular black glasses, a black suit with a perpki tie, and closed-toed shoes stood across the water with an army of thugs with all kinds of weapons. Such a foul mouth, Naruto mocked. I suppose you're Gato. You're damn right I am. Who the are you, and why the is that bridge builder still alive? He yelled. What's wrong with Tazuna being alive? Enough of this. Kill the men. The fat businessman then took a look at Anko, Kushina, and Naomi and grinned lecherously. And take the women. They'll be great whores. The man and his army of thugs suddenly froze as a shit ton of killing intent was sent towards them, and it was none other than the women he had just suggested would be whores. I am no one's whore. Anko and Naomi yelled as they began tapping into their own respective demonic power, Anko's curse mark and Naomi's chakra mode. In a flash the two were across the bridge, ripping apart the bandits limb from limb. Monsters. You two are monsters. One bandit yelled before his throat was ripped out. Leave Gato alive, I have something better for him. Naruto ordered, and though the girls gave no visible reaction, he knew they heard him. And what would that be? Kushina asked. I need his base's location. The money and anything else thing will be valuable for the citizens of Wave. His face then grew dark. Plus it's clear the man and his associates have no trouble with raping women and turning them into lesser things. Kushina's face also turned into a scowl at what lesser things meant and she despised it. She knew about the darker missions kunoichi were sometimes forced and some even volunteered for after having nothing to live for. They became by all means, whores, slaves, cumdumps, and every other demeaning and demoralizing name one could call a woman. The downside to such missions was the women never came back the same, their minds were gone, the only thing they could think about afterwards was sex. It was so horrible that not even Yamanaka such as Inoichi would willingly dive into their minds because of what they had been through. She had no doubt had Minato Tem not saved her from those Kumo shinobi she would have been turned into breeding stock with all kinds of bastards touching her body. And what if they are too far gone? I'll put them out of their misery. Their conversation was cut short when Naomi and Anko returned and dropped Gato in front of them and said man had a piss stain that showed even through his black pants. Wait, please don't kill me. I can give you anything. Money, land, women, jewelry, weapons, whatever you need. Just please don't kill me. The man begged. Tell me where your little hideout is and I'll consider it. Naruto said and watched as the man's face changed from fear to rage. Absolutely not. You won't get to my money or the bitches I have there. The man stared defiantly into the redhead's eyes until he pissed himself a second time as said redhead grabbed him by his throat and lifted him off the ground having him dangle his feet and scratch at the arm holding his throat in an iron grip. Who said I was asking? Naruto said as he formed his Sharingan and extracted said information forcefully before dropping the far man on his back. What do we do with him Naruto-kun? Naomi asked. The Otsutsuki thought about it for a minute before placing a seal on the man's forehead. A cursed seal? Anko asked confused. Naruto shook his head, it stops him from dying despite whatever injuries he sustains. Suddenly all eyes were on Gato who whimpered in fear at the bloodthirsty grins. Tazuna, round up every one of your townsfolk. It's time they got revenge. Kushina shouted grabbing the businessman by his collar and dragging him in the direction of the town. Right away. The bridge builder replied with a grin on his face that couldn't be wiped off his face by anything. His fellow workers were the same as they all quite literally sprinted their way home to tell everyone the spectacular news. Can we come with you? Naomi's voice stopped her leader as he began walking away. No. His voice gave a definite answer meaning there would be no discussion involved. What? The two yelled shocked he would deny them the opportunity to torture someone who deserved it. I didn't stutter. The answer's no. I don't know how bad it is in there and some of that stuff is too strong for either one of you to see. We're not children. You trained us and prepared for anything. You can't just shelter us. Naomi shouted but soon flinched at the glare Naruto sent her. Do you think I care about that? You three are people I hold dearly and if I can spare at least some of the horrors humans have to spare then damn it that's what I'll do. Before the two could utter a sound, he was gone in a swirl. He really cares for us. Anko managed to say. Yeah, Naomi added and felt her heart beat. Was this the feeling her mother told her about as a child? Despite having doubt, Kushina always believed the right man would come along and win her daughter's heart and treat her like a princess. Gato's estate. Naruto appeared in the front gates of the mansion and inspected the surroundings. It looked to have over 50 guards from the faint chakra signatures civilians gave off. Guess I'll be stealthy just this once. After sneaking his way past the guards at gate and inner landscape, he made his way inside the luxurious house itself and was planning on going for the safe first until he heard voices and moaning. Anne, if you are uncomfortable with torture scenes involving children, please skip this part and scroll to where you see the next bold characters. Turning his head down a hallway, his eyes narrowed at what he saw. A woman, another thug if the clothes and weapons on the ground were any indication, was servicing 5 dudes. 2 guys were thrusting in and out of her and while a third thrusted into her mouth while the final 2 she jerked off. And by the lustful look in her eyes, the woman was enjoying it. Aren't you glad you got rid of your bratty little daughter to have some fun with us instead? One of the thugs said and laughed as the woman nodded and sucked him off with more vigor. Forget about that brat. She couldn't even suck me off right despite her mom showing her all the steps to do it. He scowled in the direction of said girl and Naruto saw red at what came into his vision. A girl, no younger than 10 years old, was on the ground covered in sperm, a pool of blood puddled around her head, and her eyes wide open stating she was very much awake a few seconds before he arrived. He growled with bloodlust shown clearly in his eyes. He came around the corner activating his M's and walked in the direction of the group. Hey, who are you? One of the thugs yelled and notified his fellow thugs about the approaching redhead. The woman noticed too but ignored him in favor of sucking more. Whose child is that? He asked calmly though he fully knew and simply wanted to know if the woman was a piece of shit or she had just been raped to the point where she thought of nothing but why that would be hers. One of them chuckled as he gripped the woman's hair and smirked as she moaned from the harsh treatment before glaring at the new arrival for interrupting her fun time. Do you not love your child? Naruto asked the woman and stared impassively as she stood up and exposed her less than attractive body that had semen covering it and glared at him even more. If she can't even provide any use then no. The annoying just complained about how much it hurt and kept crying so we shut her up. She laughed at the end before seeing her comrades get impaled by wood shooting out of the ground. I don't find mentally and physically abusing your kin funny. I don't find killing your child funny. And I sure as hell don't find you getting your holes filled while your daughter is over against the wall bleeding out. Naruto growled. The woman went for a kunai and lunged at the redhead in rage. How dare you kill my friends and tell me to care for some worthless brat? Naruto easily dodged at her attack and slammed her into the wall before jabbing the kunai she had into her head and letting it hold her body to the wall. Worthless brat It'll be that worthless brat that decides your fate at the gate of hell. He said before walking down the stairs to a basement and sniffing out more hormones. This place reeks of death and sex. And I have a feeling I know what was killed. Yami said, if such a thing happens to be a possibility, I'll wipe this entire house off the face of the planet. Opening the door leading to a large room which he concluded was where they held women, his eyes widened upon what he saw. Death. Chains. Women. Blood. No mommy stop. I'm sorry. His eyes traveled and filled with rage as a woman beat a child with what looked like a metal bar. Shut up. You should have thought about this before biting Toshi-kun's now I won't get to have any. I've had enough of you always up you little shit. The woman yelled, ignoring the infant's pleas and apologies. Another child, between the age of 7 or 8 was being sat on by a thug while a woman sucked him off and ignored the child's cry for his mother to help him. Yet another child, a little girl, was getting hit by a woman because a thug told her he'd spend more time with her if she made the little pay for not giving him top. Monsters. Naruto said quietly and somehow it traveled throughout the room despite the moaning, grunting, yelling, and cries effectively silencing everyone. What? Who are you? A thug shouted as he stood up abruptly and got into the redhead's face despite still having his glory known to the world. Not that it was much to show off mind you. His answer was given to him when a hand grabbed his throat and slammed him into the wall, threatening to choke him. A hit came at Naruto's back. Put Toshi-kun down freak. He didn't do anything wrong to you so leave him alone. Naruto looked the woman over and scowled in disgust seeing she was the same woman he had just saw beat her child to death. Why did you kill that child? He questioned. Sure he could just kill her but he wanted to hear it come from the woman's mouth. Why? You wanna know why I killed that little bastard? She can't do anything right. How hard could it be to suck? I did it easily so why can't she? And then she hurt Toshi-kun which meant I couldn't get. She yelled, clearly thinking what she had said made sense. It didn't. So you killed your child because you couldn't stop being a. The women in the room had the audacity to look shocked and then glared at the man. Of course. I never wanted this stupid brat. I just wanted to be and I won't have some annoying brat ruin it for me. One yelled as Naruto saw behind her was a dead child with his head split open and dried blood around the wound. It was then he noticed that there were many more corpses throughout the room, and all of them were children, whether covered in sperm from being raped to death or killed. It was then at that point Naruto realized none of these monsters could be saved. To be raped until your mind broke, he could understand, but willingly forsaking your child for sex was unforgivable and made your life forfeit. Now give us Toshi-kun or we'll make you. The woman demanded. Crack. Tashi's body fell to the floor lifeless, his neck broken. The women looked at the murderer in fear along with the other thugs in the room. Don't worry, I'll reunite you whores with him soon enough. Naruto said, tapping into his Biju power unconsciously. Freak. One cried. You're a monster. Another shouted. Murderer. The women shouted but were silenced by the laughter that came from Naruto. You call me a monster, yet you disregard the safety of your children to get your rocks off. No matter. Once I'm done with you, you'll wish you had treated your kids right. He snarled before attacking the now screaming women and men. Coast is clear for the squeamish. With Kushina, Naomi, and Anko. The three hummed peacefully as they watched Gato get ripped apart by the civilians of Wave. Such a nice punishment for him, don't you think? Kushina asked. Easily. They're really giving it their all too. Anko said as she watched a woman kick the man repeatedly in the balls. I wonder how Naruto-kun's doing. Naomi said, earning grins from Anko and Kushina. Geez, we love him too, but you're head over heels for him. Kushina giggled. Yeah, he's on your mind 24/7. Anko added with a grin. Naomi blushed and was about to yell at them when she felt the ground shake. She just looked to her mother and Anko and it was clear they felt it too. What was that? She asked. Naruto's probably in danger. No sooner than the words left her mouth, Anko and Naomi stormed off in direction of where the minor earthquake came from. The red-headed woman sighed and facepalmed. Such a handful, Ibane. She muttered before rushing off to catch up with them. Konohagakure, Hokage Tower. Hiruzen once could say he was proud of being the Hokage and leader of his village. To lead honorable men and women into wars defending his sensei's will of fire with his life. Now, however, Konoha had become a shell of its former self. Its civilians and shinobi had become arrogant, demanding, and corrupt. Even its government had become laid back, corrupt, and cruel. His thoughts went to the three people the village despised as a whole. Uzumaki Kushina, Uzumaki Naomi, Mitarashi Anko. One happened to be the student Orochimaru betrayed and left behind to fend for herself. One was a girl who was unwillingly made a Jinchuriki of the Biju that attacked the village at birth. And the last was the mother of said girl. Given how Kushina had taken in Anko and treated the girl like family, when the time came around for Anko to choose her sensei and be a follower like everyone else, Anko chose family and was hated even more for it. Kushina was the wife of the deceased Yondaime Hokage, though only few knew of this, a Uzumaki considered a dirty foreigner by the village, and the mother of a child who had the 9 tails sealed within her. Kushina had also went through death threats, abandonment by her students and closest friends, and various attacks on the lives of both her and her child, yet repelled each and every one, showing why the woman was the strongest and most feared kunoichi in all the elemental nations. And finally, Naomi was the said child that held the demon itself. The girl was hated from the moment she could fully breath or make a sound, cursed and scorned by the people around her. Her death was demanded by quite literally everyone, and when that didn't happen, they attempted to sabotage her shinobi training at the academy, only to find out she could answer just about everything thrown at her and refused to be bullied or disrespected by anyone. Thus why he currently had the displeasure of looking into the faces of his old friends and teammates, though neither one of them saw him as such, and neither did he. They had proven such a thing wasn't worth anything. Every single day they attempted to usurp his command and challenged every single thing he did. The first was a woman, Kaharu, who wore a simple long kimono, closed by an obi, a jacket, and a sash over it. Her hair is pulled into a twin bun locked by a hairpin with 2 pearls dangling off the side. The second was a male, Homura, who had gray hair, a beard, glasses, and similar robes like Hiruzen did as Hokage. The final was a man, Danzo, who appeared as a frail, old man, who walked with a cane. He had black, shaggy hair, and his right eye was bandaged while wearing a white shirt, with a black or dark gray robe over the top of it covering from his feet. For the last time, Homura, I will not punish Kushina for putting several shinobi in the hospital after they provoked and attacked her first. For the last time, Kaharu, the Uchiha will not receive training from several Jonin, he already has one and that is more than enough. And for the last time, Danzo, I will not give you Naomi for you to train her. He told them and watched as they all scowled at the same time. This is unacceptable. You gave that Uzumaki wench and her demonic daughter another Jonin to assist her, yet you refuse to give Uchiha-sama the tools he needs to kill Itako and remain loyal to our cause. Kaharu shouted. I agree. I won't stand silent while that foreigner puts our shinobi in the hospital for doing their duty and ridding the village of their wretched stench. Homura added. The Sandame glared at the two and they both flinched as a reflex. Both the elders, civilian council, and the village as a whole had expected the Sandame to be a pushover now due to his old age, and that would allow them to make many changes that would be more beneficial to them. They were wrong. The man had come back strong as if he were in his prime. An authoritative presence that inspired fear both in and out of Konoha. He wasn't going to be manipulated by anyone or anything, and he made that clear. Of course there had been those that challenged his command, such as the late Uchiha Fugaku, Homura, Kaharu, and mainly Danzo, though they quickly realized such an idea was not smart. The Uzumaki woman is not loyal to this village, everyone knows this. She is a danger that must be eliminated, and her daughter must be brought to her knees for re-education to serve the village. Danzo said. I don't blame Kushina nor Naomi for not being loyal to this village for all the things you've attempted to do to them behind their back. Sarutobi replied. It was all in the name of Konoha. I refuse to allow that abomination and whore walk around the village as if they own it. We are their superiors, their betters, and we deserve to be treated as such. Danzo defended. The Uzumaki have always been foreigners and will stay foreigners in this village. Homura added. Which is why we demand all knowledge about the Uzumaki clan be removed from the Shinobi Library and Shinobi Academy, burned, and all jutsu regarding that bastard clan be given to our shinobi who will put it to better use than be hoarded by that Uzumaki woman who refuses to show us anything. Kaharu finished. Sarutobi's face remained stoic and blank for a few seconds before standing up. First of all, the Uzumaki clan was just as responsible as the Senju, if not more than the Uchiha, for the founding of this village. If I recall correctly from what my own eyes saw and from what Hashirama-sensei told me, it was Uzumaki Mito who assisted him as wringing control from Madara when he ensnared the Kyuubi in his Sharingan and eventually sealed the Biju within her. It was Uzumaki Mito who eventually married Hashirama-sensei and became his wife. Hashirama was a fool to marry that pathetic woman. Homura shouted and paled as he felt ki explode from the elderly cage. Disrespect my sensei or interrupt me again and you'll find retirement coming closer. Second, I will not be removing anything about the Uzumaki clan from the academy, library, and I will certainly not be taking anything from Kushina that belonged to her since her birthright. She is a Konoha shinobi and therefore whatever she has in her possession, whether it be family scrolls, jutsu, techniques, seals, or whatever belong to us by right. Kaharu shouted. Is that the case for the Uchiha boy as well? Hiruzen asked and watched as the two began turning red with rage. How dare you compare Uchiha-sama to the likes of that bitch? You're crossing the line, Hiruzen. Homura snarled. Remind yourself of your place, councilman. All it takes is for one slip up on your part and I can have you executed within the hour. All three teammates of the Sandame looked shocked at this, even Danzo. Very well, Hiruzen, though remember this well. The shinobi's trust in you has been wavering ever you decided to stick up for the Uzumaki. It'll only be a matter of time before they feel a new Hokage should be elected who will answer their cries about the demon brat. Danzo said as the three elders prepared to leave the office but were shaken by his cold response as they exited out the door. Should such an event happen, I do not worry for the safety of Kushina-chan nor her daughter or even Anko-chan. Instead, I worry for those foolish enough to believe a woman who survived being attacked and stabbed by the Kyuubi's claws and the very container of said beast will simply die or be brought to your heels like you all think they will. Hiruzen shortly afterwards continued with his paperwork, which was mostly demands of the Shinobi Academy being made easier for the civilians and Kushina and Naomi being executed, which he obviously denied. As long as he could, he would try his best and preserve what little remained of his sensei's will of fire in the village. With the girls. Whoa! Anko whistled in awe at the destruction of the area. The mansion had been completely destroyed, ripped apart by wooden spikes, and covered in black flames. Whoever pissed him off is more than likely dead. Kushina muttered, looking at all the dead bodies they passed by. But what maid could have pissed him off this bad? He's the one who taught us how to deal with our emotions, remember? Naomi said. The two older women could only shrug as they walked through and avoided spikes in the ground, not focusing on the looks of the dead thugs. Eventually they did come upon Naruto, who looked as if he was burying something, or rather someone. Naruto-kun! Naomi shouted as she ran up and hugged him, though he gave no reaction to it. Curious and worried, she looked in front of him and gasped at what she saw. He was burying children. Two gasps from behind them gave away Kushina and Anko saw as well. The plan continues on as we discussed earlier, he said, though it was strained as if he had been crying earlier. What happened here? Anko asked as she walked up next to him. Naruto simply shook his head before walking off. The money in the bag has more than enough for Wave to provide and care for themselves should they choose to do so. I'll meet you back at the house. The three could only look at one another with a worried glance before looking back at the graves. Think he'll tell us later? Kushina asked. Anko nodded. It had to be something horrible though, since it involved kids. We should give him time. 1 week later. Like Anko had suggested, Naruto did tell them, and it had involved kids. The end result was Naomi barfing, Anko begging Naruto to revive the women so she could make them suffer, and Kushina scowling in disgust. The rest of the week was basically the group helping around the town, dealing with whatever stragglers Gato had left around, and spending time with one another. The people of Wave were incredibly thankful for their help and had said so multiple times. It was hard for them to watch their heroes end up leaving, though they did promise to always have their back if they needed everything. Naruto-kun, hurry up! Naomi yelled as the group was walking back to Konoha. Yeah, lazy, you're being awfully slow. Anko added. Naruto rolled his eyes as he walked faster before falling in pace with the rest of the group. So what are you gonna do? Kushina asked. What do you mean? You can't exactly walk into Konoha with 2 horns on your head, especially if you want your plan to work. The Uzumaki said. Naruto clicked his teeth. You make it sound like I care what people think. Anyone with the balls to attack you, let alone me, will be left broken. Overconfident bastard. Kushina muttered and was promptly smacked on her behind for it. You love it. In minutes, Kushina was chasing Naruto, waving her sword around in her attempts to hurt him. Should we help her? Naomi asked Anko. Let's. Hokage Tower. Hiruzen sighed at the news brought before him by the Daimo's head general. Is there no way we can simply back out of this? He asked the woman. She shook her head negative. His Majesty will not accept a backing out Hiruzen. Not only will it be a bad light on him, but other nations will take such as disrespect and feel an attack on Konoha as an appropriate response. The Chunin exams will go on in Konoha and all available teams must join in. She said. The elderly Kage groaned as he buried his hands in his face. Why would Hiruzen be worried about this, you might ask? Well, there was just one thing about Konoha's genin. With the exception of Team Guy and Naomi, the rest were simply jokes. His son, Asuma, was in charge of Team 10, which consisted of the Inoshika Cho trio with the 3 heirs of the Yamanaka, Nara, and Akamiki clan. Newly appointed Jonin Yuhi Kurenai was in charge of Team 8, which consisted of Inuzuka Kiba, Hyuga Hinata, and Aburame Shino, who were also all heirs with the exception of Hinata. Hitaki Kakashi, the late Yondaime's student, was in charge of Team 7, which consisted of Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and Sai. Sasuke was the last Uchiha, Sakura was the daughter of councilwoman Mebuki, and Sai was a ninja Danzo referred to fill in the empty spot. While that might not sound bad, Hiruzen knew just how bad both teams and Jonin Sensei were when it came to handling their students. Haruno, Yamanaka, Nara, and Inuzuka each tied for dead last for the academy, having the worst scores of all time. The first two were straight-up fangirls who did nothing to improve shinobi-wise and focused more on winning over a boy who didn't even like them. The Nara boy had been the laziest he had ever seen, even more than his father, though Hiruzen knew he was extremely smart like his father, and finally the Inuzuka boy was just a mess. Brash, arrogant, and believed any female he liked belonged to him. He had made advances on every single girl in his class and had been rejected quite brutally. The worst coming from Hinata, ironically. The Inuzuka had attempted to grope the girl and suffered a beating worse than any Tsunade could give Jiraiya on her best day. The Hyuga girl had gone through so much mental trauma, from being degraded, bullied, called weak, harassed, neglected, and ignored by her entire family. The girl had just been cast out by the clan, with her own mother branding her with the cage bird seal, using it on her before kicking her to the streets. It had only been because of one of his Anbu notifying him of the girl's injuries had he known. Though he wasn't fully blind, he knew the girl had hatred within her. He could see the way she looked at her teammates, sensei, and fellow genin with hatred. It was the same type of hatred Kushina held for Konoha, for their unjustified hatred for her and her daughter. The Akamaiki was more focused on eating than anything else. The Aburame was insanely creepy, even for his family's standards, though he was more respectful than any of the other brats in his class. Sai was a root drone, he could tell that easily from first glance of looking at him and his emotionless face. Maybe he'd have Kushina secretly kill him should the chance arise. And finally, the Uchiha, the most disrespectful about the bunch, believed he was Kami on Earth due to how many people in the village spoiled him silly. The boy had never worked for anything, always being given free jutsu by either the shinobi or Kakashi himself when Team 7 was first formed. However, the boy had a secret that Itako and himself talked about with the Sandame from time to time. Itako, before she left, had expressed her fear of what would happen should the elders find out, and Sasuke coming to speak with him every day once he finally got rid of his fangirls. Perhaps he could tell Kushina and see what she could do. Are they that bad, Hiruzen? She asked. The man looked up at her and gave her a look that said it all. They're horrible. None of them except for 4 people are even considerable for Chunin. The rest shouldn't have even been let out of the academy. He sighed as he rubbed his scalp. Judging from how you dismissed your Anbu guards, you didn't want your opinion known to others who could use this against you, said one of the woman's samurai bodyguards. You are correct. I have many enemies within this village and very few are still truly loyal to me. All because I don't bow to their wishes and demand. Again with Kushina and her daughter. The fire daimyo addressed this issue years ago. The other guard said. And what happened shortly after? He was almost killed by assassins. The cage nodded slowly. This village is not what I once believed it was. Its arrogance and disrespect for old traditions have shown time and time again. Shinobi who I once trusted with my life have betrayed me and sided with those conspiring against me. Arrogant children who believe they are Kami's children walk the streets as if they were blessings when they are in fact rodents. But alas, I no longer have the support nor the strength to do it about it fully. I'm sure the fire daimyo will come to your defense immediately and stop whatever this village plans to do. You and him are still great friends, as am I with Kushina. Hiruzen shook his head sadly, his eyes showing tiredness and fatigue, and risk his life. We both know he has many people from Konoha within in his walls as sleeper agents, yet we cannot identify them. Very well. However, I will be staying in Konoha for a couple days to test these teams and see where their current skill is at. With a respectful nod between the two, the samurai left the office, leaving Hiruzen in a moment of silence. You can't go in there, demon wench. A shrill, loud, screeching voice yelled from outside his office before you heard a body hit the floor. Hiruzen sighed. He really should fire that woman or just have people knock. The door opened and it revealed 3 people he knew and 1 he didn't, though he wasn't worried about that. He was more worried about their changes. Kei Kushina. Hey old man. The redhead grinned, scratching the back of her neck sheepishly, knowing she had to explain a lot. For starters, Kushina no longer wore any clothing signifying she was Konoha other than her headband, which hung loosely off her waist. She also wore a black high-collared jacket with the Uzumaki crest on the back that strained to hold her assets without jiggling. Black shinobi pants with a kunai holster and sword sheath that held her weapons at the ready, and her hair was even longer somehow. Anko simply wore her trench coat that remained open at all times to show her bust, an orange skirt, and the regular pouches. Like Kushina, her headband hung loosely around off her waist. Naomi was a different story, however. For starters, her hair was so Madara-like, it honestly scared the sandame. There was also the fact her chakra, along with Naomi and Anko's, felt massively increased from the last time he saw them. She wore a orange hoodie with a black shirt underneath, shinobi pants with kunai pouches, and a katana across her back. She was also gripping the 4th individual's arm within her clearly larger bust. The 4th figure was. Hiruzen didn't know how to explain, hell, he didn't even know where to start. His chakra, while suppressed, was clearly cage level, which already shocked the man, felt dark yet light as if they mixed together. He wore a black cloak over a black shirt and pants, a black belt, and a sword sheathed behind his waist. His black spiky hair with hair covering his right eye that would have made Hiruzen accuse the boy of being related to the Uchiha if not for the cold blue eyes that stared emotionally at him. Kushina, would you please explain what's going on? The man asked her, and judging from how she made eye contact with the male of the group, he was in for a doozy. And he was right. Kushina had told him everything, from the surprise attack, to Naruto's intervention and eventually saving their lives, training them, forming bonds with each of them, killing Gato, and among other things. I'm too old for this shit. The sandame muttered, rubbing his head. Can you make him a ninja? Naomi asked. Fortunately for you all, the Fire Daimyo wants to know which shinobi truly deserve to be promoted to Chunin during the upcoming exams and who will more than likely be sent back to the academy. So he'll be sending one of his samurai to observe, takes notes, and tell the full honest truth. Naruto said, getting a nod. Unfortunately, you'll still need a 3rd member. However, Yuhi Kurenai has voiced her displeasure with how Hyuga Hinata is no longer in her eyes worth training and wishes to remove her from her unit. Kushina instantly snarled. That pathetic bitch. If only I could get away with removing her birth canal. She would have went on had not Naruto placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. We'll take her. Besides, what better way to show that sorry excuse for a jonin how worthless she is by doing what she cannot? And what would that be, Otsutsuki-sama? The male visibly flinched at the sight of the sharp fangs of the god. By turning Hinata into a woman stronger than any of the Noichi Konoha has ever made. Somewhere every person who had ever done something wrong to one Hyuga Hinata all shivered violently and broke out into a cold sweat, their hearts beating rapidly and their breathing getting heavy. Until it all stopped. Very well, I leave the girl in your hands. Please, do protect and take care of the girl. She's a truly kind soul who was born into a horrible family. Naruto nodded. Where is Hinata now? In the hospital being treated for her many wounds. I shall give you a needed slip with my approval to get past and avoid any unnecessary trouble along the way. However what? Anko asked. The Hyuga's clan animosity towards the girl is known to everyone within the village. Had you not have been going there myself, I honestly would have feared her clan would kill her before I made it. Hiruzen said. Naruto scowled and disappeared in a fire shunshin, momentarily startling the old cage. Why would they kill her though? She's already been outcasted from the clan. Naomi said. The Hyuga are known for their archaic ways in how they deal with family they see as worthless or not worth their time. Because Hinata didn't like hurting her family just for the fun of it like her other clan members, they considered her a worthless cause. Anko said. And because they despise her so much and it's clear no one else in the village really cares for her well-being. Naomi's eyes widened. They'll kill her and get away with it because as long as that slave seal is on her person, they can easily say she's still some form of the Hyuga clan in some sick way. Kushina finished. But who would they send? Anko asked, knowing many within the clan hated Hinata. Whether it was the main branch for their hatred of the girl not wanting to hurt family or the side branch who openly hated the girl to fit in and find a way to escape getting beaten into submission. Not that it would work. Who had the most to prove in the main family? Kushina asked with a scowl dug in heavy on her beautiful face. Hiruzen and Anko both made thinking gestures before their eyes widened. Hitomi. They both shouted at the same time. Kushina nodded, crossing her arms under her bust. Hiashi has the pathetic woman under his thumb and the man knows it. The only reason the elders tolerate her is because she beat and abused Hinata when they told her to. The moment she kills her, Hiashi swoops in claiming Hitomi disobeyed orders and kills her on the elders' orders. And poor little Hitomi will only realize at the end of her worthless life that she up. Hiruzen visibly cringed at how cruel Kushina turned. Whatever this Otsutsuki Naruto had done to her was yet to be seen if it was positive or negative. Kushina, I do have one last thing to tell you before you leave and hopefully, you'll relay this to Naruto-sama. Hiruzen said. Of course, what is it? The redhead asked. You remember how Uchiha Makoto gave birth to a daughter and a son? The three women instantly grew scowls. Who cares about that damned clan? Naomi snarled. Please listen before you say anything, what I'm going to say may upset you greatly. I doubt it considering it involves the Uchiha, but go on. Anko said. Very well. The elderly Kage took a smoke out of his pipe before taking a deep breath. Konoha Hospital. Hinata truly didn't like harming family despite her family had no problem beating her physically and mentally for her so-called weakness. However, for the past few years, she had begun realizing she had a darker side than she wished to let on. And it had only gotten stronger due to an outside presence fueling it. Whereas one side had tried to believe that she could change the ways of her clan and bring them together, the other knew such a thing would be impossible due to how shallow and simple-minded the Hyuga were. After all, if they could go as far to beat family, why would they stop? She had briefly watched Kushina and her daughter as they walked around Konoha and received nasty glares all around from everyone, including her former clan. The girl was shocked as to what the two had done to deserve such scorn, and her answer was granted when she overheard her former father and the elders talking. The man had gleefully gloated about helping someone named Jiraiya bring the two under the control of Konoha and how the clan would thrive from being known as the main helpers for containing the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and her whore of a mother. Speaking of mothers, Hinata hated her former mother with a passion. The woman had never been kind and supportive of her children unless they had done what Hiashi wanted, which was attack and injure one another. It was also because Hinata realized Hitomi had been just as much of a fangirl of Hiashi as Sakura and Ino were of Sasuke. Such a thing honestly disgusted her, though she couldn't say the signs weren't there. The room door, and Hinata immediately glared at the three individuals that stepped in with all the hatred her pain and bandaged body could manage. You look as pathetic as usual, girl. Hitomi sneered. The wife of Hiashi was once a kind girl with an even sweeter heart, however once she finally was viewed to Hiashi, she had turned for the worst. No longer the beautiful ray of sunshine that had remained in the Hyuga, she had turned into an exact copy of the man she married, and for what? So she could stay with him. Was the happiness of her children valued so little to her? I do have to thank you along with the rest of the clan for my current condition. After all, it was you who beat me after I had already gotten this seal placed on my head and it had been used for an hour straight. Hinata snapped back and was smacked by Hitomi. A scowl placed on the older woman's face. If you were a real Hyuga, you would have fought back, but no, you just had to go and show your worthlessness. The woman yelled, showing she had just as horrible of a screech as Sakura and her mother, Mebuki. And what exactly is a real Hyuga? Killing your own clansmen. Willing inflicting pain and suffering on them. Laughing at their pain and misery because they were born into a side that you see as less than you. Hinata coughed up as Hitomi punched her in a wound, reopening it. It is the tradition of the clan and it will not be denied by anyone. Hiyashi-kun was right, we should have had Hanabi and Neji kill you, seeing how they despise you for being so weak. Hitomi snarled. For what? Because I don't willingly abuse my family. Hanabi used that seal on a child not even 2 years younger than her and laughed while he cried before killing him. And Neji is no better. The only reason he's loved by the main branch is because he bows to their whim and attacks anyone they order him to. Hinata shouted defiantly and let out a silent scream when Hitomi ripped her from her bed and threw her against the wall, reopening more of her wounds. So what if Hanabi-chan killed a child from the branch family? His life means as little as yours does. And don't you speak foul of Neji-kun like that, he's more of a Hyuga than you'll ever be. Hitomi went to kick Hinata in her face but was stopped by a wave of killing intent that flooded the room like a wave. It appears the Sandame was right, you would attempt to kill her. Naruto said. Who are you? How dare you interfere in Hyuga clan matters? Hitomi said as her guards prepared to kill the unnoticed intruder. Hiyashi-kun told her that old idiot of a Hokage wouldn't dare interfere with this, knowing if he did, he would be removed from seat. If I was told correctly and from what I just overheard, Hinata-san was kicked out from your inbreeding clan, therefore this is a situation for the Hokage to handle, seeing as you are attacking a member of his shinobi corps. Hitomi and her guards scowled at the inbred comment before charging the intruder with the intent of killing him and then going after the Hokage. Though they didn't see a second figure climb in the window behind them and kneel before Hinata. Who are you? Hinata said as blood leaked from her mouth. Her vision was getting more and more blurry and she could barely breathe. Her wounds had reopened due to Hitomi's attacks, which were obviously meant to kill her. Shish. It'll be okay. The figure said as his hand glowed dark green and he held it above on her many wounds. Hinata wanted to let out a scream at the new painful feeling that overcame her body. Foreign chakra flooded her system and filled her with pleasure at how warm and soothing it was, but pain as it stretched her chakra levels and she felt more than her wounds be healed. Naruto dodged the swift and quick palm strikes from Hitomi and her guards and grinned through the entire way. Stay still, you wretched commoner. One of the guards yelled as he attacked with a speed most Chunin wouldn't be able to handle. I'm a commoner. You can't even hit me. Naruto taunted before landing 2 palm strikes on his own to the guards, which traveled to their heart and instantly killed them. Hitomi paled as she realized the person before her had just killed 2 of the strongest branch members in the clan, only second to Neji. She was never a fighter, more so of a yes woman and doing what others told her to do. Not so tough now, are you, Hyuga? Naruto said as he grabbed Hitomi by her hair. Release me immediately. I am Hyuga Hitomi, matriarch of the Hyuga clan and wife to Hyuga Hiyashi, the current Hyuga clan head. You'll be dead once he finds out what you've done. She smirked, knowing he'd beg for his life like many others alike had. Is that supposed to frighten me? Her eyes widened as 2 horns rose from his forehead and a dark grin crossed his face. Demon. Someone help. The Kyuubi has broken free. She screamed but only got drowned out by Naruto's laughter. How stereotypical of you humans, the first sign of horns are something different from what you believe in, you choose to exile or resent it. I'm no demon and I'm far worse than the Kyuubi. Impossible. Anything that doesn't look human must be wiped out. Exterminated like the diseased filth it is. It doesn't matter it is, child or not, it must be destroyed. The woman ranted on, trying to get out of his grip on her hair. I'd ask what turned you into this disgusting waste of a woman, but I feel such a thing would only annoy me. He said as he threw her down. Hitomi immediately activated her Byakugan and charged Naruto with a scowl, I'll show Hiyashi-kun and the elders how strong I am by killing you. Dodging her anger-filled palm strikes, Naruto simply grabbed hold of the woman's throat and broke it effortlessly in his grip before dropping the lifeless body to the ground. No sense in playing with food, that's boring. Somewhat half of a moan and groan from behind him caught his attention, and he turned to see Hinata standing up but not all the way able to fully support herself. As she fell forwards, he easily caught her and sat her back on the bed. My body feels so strange, she mumbled before stretching and giving an unintentional view of her full. They are nice. Are you really? One look at a nice pair of tits and you already want to stick yo. Naruto cut that mental conversation and shook his head. He just had a strong appreciation for large, it was perfectly normal. See, can you stop staring please? Hinata spoke, her face covered in a blush and a slight scowl while her arms tried to cover her bosom. Oh right, sorry. The redhead summoned clothing for her and promptly turned around to give her privacy. He walked over to the bodies of the dead Hyuga and burned them before sending a clone hanged as Hitomi with orders to kill the elders. Why, you can turn around and now. Hinata squeaked. Naruto did so and couldn't stop his eyes from gazing over her body. While she had wore the same thing as before, a cream-colored hoodie and shinobi pants, her body was more developed and it showed with how her seemed to be too big for her hoodie and her hips looked more plump and full in the pants. Anyo. Who are you? Naruto frowned at her stuttering and promised to fix that later on. I'm Naruto, your new teammate. Teammate? Yes, apparently your former Jonin sensei felt that since you aren't a part of a clan anymore, you weren't worth her time. He watched as her face formed a full scowl before it turned to sadness and she was about to cry. Naruto gently put his hand on her cheek and she flinched but didn't move it. What do you desire most in life, Hinata-san? He asked her. She looked at him before putting her head down. He lifted it back gently before encouraging her with a smile. I want support. She squeaked. I want a nice guy with a nice family that'll love me. I just wanna be strong. I can do that. She looked up at him in shock. What do you mean? She asked. Look no further for that support. I'll help you get stronger. He grinned. Really? Really? She squealed happily and hugged him, sending both of them to the floor. He rubbed her back soothingly as her body trembled. He correctly guessed she was crying. Thank you. Thank you so much. She cried, burying her face into his shoulder. Naruto continued rubbing her back until she finally cried herself to sleep, more than likely not the first time either. He then sat up and held her by her hips as her legs unconsciously wrapped around him and her arms tightened around his shoulders. The Otsutsuki placed a kiss on her forehead and sat on the hospital bed for a while. Hinata, always a nice girl, it was just due to peer pressure from everyone around her that she did stuff she didn't want to do entirely. This time, however, he smirked as she moaned when he rubbed her thigh. This time he planned for her to be his and his only.